Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Sharon, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Camille Barron, a healthcare advisor and financial coordinator, also in Sharon, Massachusetts.
Rebecca, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Rebecca Greenberg. I am the operations director for the Law, Your Money, and You.
And we have, I got to introduce her. This is my niece, Rachel Waterman, and she and Rebecca grew up when they were little together, so this is a reunion. And Rachel is coming to us from Brazil. Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself, and feel free to introduce your family also, because you're all in Brazil, and that's a real background.
Thank you. Yes, we try to bring you a really beautiful background for the day. I hope you can see the boats on the water and the mountains in the background. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. As she said, my name is Rachel Waterman. I am CEO of a small boutique grant writing and development consulting firm. And I work remotely from here from beautiful Brazil. And I'm here today with my husband, Yure.
Hello.
And our new puppy. And our two children, Avi and Liliana.
Hi. Hi.
And Avi has done work on the police officers are our friends. They're very talented. These kids are very talented. But Rachel is very talented too. One of the reasons we have her here today is from the coronavirus and how that affects grant writing. But before you get into that, Rachel, because you have to tell us a little bit about yourself. She serves as mayor in Lake Worth. She got elected. I mean, this girl is absolutely brilliant, among other things. But let's stick, Rachel, tell us about the coronavirus and the effects on grant writing.
Well, you know, it's very interesting because when the global health pandemic broke out, a lot of funders suspended all of their grant applications in progress. So many of the opportunities to apply for funding were suspended. And what we're seeing right now is that funders are, instead of providing grant funds for programs, they're preferring that those monies go to general operating expenses and allowing their grantees to determine what is the best use of those funds in light of the global health pandemic. What this means, though, is that funders were really seeing, my sense is we're really seeing funders fund grantees who have already received money from them, rather than reach out to new organizations. So in this time of crisis, they're looking to support those organizations that they've already supported.
How do they check on what the people are doing with the money?
So right now, what we're hearing, what my clients are hearing from their funders is they're not looking to put any strings attached to money. Typically, when we get grants, they're for specific programs, specific expenses within those programs. Right now, we're getting a lot more flexibility from funders. Even grants that were approved for programs, they're calling and saying, you know what, we know that you have a lot of unexpected expenses right now, and they are giving us the flexibility to spend them in the way that best suits the organization in the immediate crisis, to keep programs running, to keep clients served, and to, if not keep the doors open, to get reopened as soon as possible.
Can you give us an example of the types of businesses that you help getting grants?
Sure. So I work with a lot of health and human service agencies, people that provide emergency services, food programs, child care programs. I also work with arts and cultural organizations, museums, music organizations, symphonic bands, visual artists organizations, and also education programs. So after school programs, scholarship programs, things like that.
And how are these organizations being affected by the pandemic?
So many organizations, if they were providers of emergency services, they're working even harder than they were before, because they're connecting with all their clients. They're making sure they have their immediate needs met. some of my clients who work with the cultural organizations and things, they've had to switch their programming to virtual platforms. And all of our organizations are really suffering. This is the height of the fundraising season, and many galas and balls have been indefinitely suspended. A lot of the individual contributions that we normally expect, people are hurting themselves and unable to give, or they're just reticent about giving because of the uncertainty of the times that we're in. So fundraising has really been impacted negatively at this time. And everything's just really uncertain right now. So the nonprofits that I work with, they're very much focused on connecting with all of their clients, making sure everyone's needs are met, and looking at how they can satisfy the CDC guidelines and get their operations open as quickly as possible.
What's CDC?
CDC.
Center for Disease Control.
Center for Disease Control.
All right. What is the overall impact there in Brazil? We hear mostly about United States here when we watch the news, but what's it like there in Brazil in terms of the effects of the pandemic?
So Brazil, it's somewhat mixed here where we are. We haven't seen a huge amount of cases. Our hospitals are dealing with things. Here in Brazil, we had a very elaborate infrastructure for public health. And so there was already a system in place to communicate with everyone. Everybody knows where to go if they're looking to get a test. There's already a very advanced public health network. So that infrastructure was in place, which helped. Also, people are very conscientious about following the rules. So people are really adhering to the guidelines that have been put out. Everyone's really wearing masks, so doing social distancing. And we live on an island, so that helps as well. We're already a little distant from people. But also Brazil has really there's been a lot of pain because the informal economy is very high here in Brazil. And there's a lot of people whose livelihoods have been affected just by the stay-at-home orders. Yeah. We are no longer under a stay-at-home order. And people have been really anxious to get back out there and, get their food carts going. And
how long has that order been lifted, Rachel? How long has it been lifted that you could?
About a week. And every week there's new things that open. School has been on online classes since March. And we have just recently heard that they will be in online school at least until the end of June. They're looking at a July 1 possible reopening of the schools, but we'll wait and see. So,
do they have school in the summer as a usual practice?
So our seasons are reversed. So we're actually in fall right now. We're just going into winter, and so they do have school in the summer there because it's our winter. They typically get 2 weeks off in July as their winter vacation. My children's school this year has decided to give them their winter vacation starting today or Monday. So they're on vacation now. So they felt like they needed a break from the online classes. So they're taking theirs 2 weeks early and hoping to economize for that class time when schools are back in session in person.
So the kids also now, is the school, do they teach English and Portuguese? Because I know you're well versed in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. The kids, what are they doing?
Yes, the kids do go to a bilingual school, and they are both fluent in both Portuguese and English now. And they both are understanding Spanish, but they don't really know how to speak it quite yet. So we'll start working on that soon.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But get back to the nonprofits. Becca, do you have a question that you've been wondering about?
Well, I just wanted to know if there's any difference. If you're a nonprofit organization, do you have a better chance of getting a grant? Has anything changed because of the coronavirus?
Do you mean a 501c3? If you're a 501c3?
Yes.
So there are several different types of nonprofit organizations. 501c3 is just one designation, one type of tax designation for a nonprofit. But most grants, many grants are available only to nonprofits. There are grants that are available to for-profit organizations. A lot of federal grants are, and there are also grants for businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and also some grants for individuals. I personally specialize in grants for nonprofits. My clients are all nonprofits.
When you say
or municipalities.
when you say nonprofit, are they all designated nonprofit by IRS? Like the Lawyer Money and You is a 501c3, and I know a lot of
Yes.
places won't even let you submit an application unless you are a 501c3.
Correct. So I work with other people that'll help people get their 501c3, but the work that I do is for organizations that are already organizations with an infrastructure in place and have programming and have some results to report. And the reason that is because if my objective is to get grants for an organization has to be ready to be a good grantee, and there's certain things that have to be in place for that to happen. And so before I come into the mix, they're typically an organization with some solid fundraising, with a solid track record, and then I can come in and help research who are the right organizations that they should be reaching out to, how to maximize the grants that they're getting from their current funders, how to reach new funders, how do we keep track of data and measuring our outcomes so that we can report them to our funders and our prospective funders. But yes, for me, I work with organizations that are already in that situation, already ready to be a good grant recipient.
Nice. What advice?
Or we can teach you how to get ready. But until you're
That's the next
ready,
question.
can't get grants for you.
What advice do you have for nonprofits looking for grants now in these times?
Well, I used to have a sign in my office that said, when you need a grant, it's too late to get one. So grant writing is about relationship building, not about building your bank account. So, people looking for grants right now are going to have the best chance of getting it to work within their existing relationships. So I think the most important thing for nonprofits right now is communication. We are living in an unprecedented time, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's true also in the nonprofit and programming world. And I think it's really important for nonprofits to reach out to all of their funders and communicate with them of what's going on at their nonprofit. How are they dealing with closures and social distancing measures, and how has their programming transformed? We should be, we're already, 2 months into this. So I would think that most nonprofits have communicated with their funders, or their funders may have already called them. But if you haven't, and if there's any funders you haven't communicated with, it's really important to reach out to them. Your current funders, to let them know how important their contributions are to your organization and keeping your organization sustainable. And a lot of funders also have additional COVID-19 recovery and response funds available. And now's the time to ask them if they have any additional funds available for COVID recovery and response. For any funders that you currently have an organization, a proposal pending with, an application that's in consideration, it's important to reach out to them as well and let them know that that program that you requested money for is still viable, or still in operation, or let them know how you have transformed things that relate to that program and why you still need that grant money. There may be proposals that are already been submitted that now seem somewhat irrelevant. So it's really incumbent upon the nonprofit to reach out to those funders and let them know that that pending proposal is still relevant, and that their funding is still vitally important to the future of those programs. Right now, if you're,
I'm sorry. I was
just going to say, if you're looking for new funding sources, it is a tricky time. And I always suggest calling a funder first, but especially now, it's really critical that you reach out to the funder first and call them or email and find out if they have their regular grant programs on schedule, and if they're open to receiving a proposal from a new grantee.
What about the availability of funds? Has that remained stable or has it decreased?
So I'm seeing that the availability of funds is has remained stable, and in some cases there's even some more funding, but it's much more specific to COVID-19 recovery and response. Most funders are really focusing on dedicating their resources in that way, because think about it, a funder is really a partner. You know, they're a partner in whatever program that you're up to. And so right now, those funding partners want to make sure that these programs that they've been investing in, these organizations they've been investing in over the years, make it through. And so they're dedicating their resources to helping their grantees in that way. That's what I'm seeing.
Oh, my question was, do you think that are banks the biggest grantors or places like that? Do you think the banks got money now?
So
Almost like the landlords. The landlords have money.
The funding that's coming from the CARES Act and those funds that are coming through the grants is a different type of grant than the grants for nonprofits. Banks do have grants for nonprofits, but they are two separate pots of money. I'm not seeing additional funding coming down to go to nonprofits yet, but we're starting to hear conversation about that in the most recent round of CARES Act proposal that just passed through the House and is up for consideration in the Senate now. I do believe there's money in there for childcare centers, nonprofit childcare centers, and other nonprofits as well.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I mean, who thinks about nonprofits now? The people who are running the nonprofits. Some of your nonprofits are the biggest employers, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. I had that statistic. I'll have to get it back to you. It's a very interesting statistic, but millions of people are employed by nonprofits. And remember, nonprofits is such a variety of types of nonprofits: hospital foundations, healthcare foundations. There's organizations that serve people with disabilities, nonprofit childcare centers. Actually, COVID has really shined a spotlight on some of the real unsung heroes of our economy. Childcare centers. Without affordable childcare, our workers can't go back to work. Where do they leave their kids? I have a client who serves children with special needs. You know, there's all of these communities that nonprofits serve that we don't really think about until services are interrupted and we see the fallout of all of that. So it takes a village.
And they, you know, the people that they serve in many cases are among the most vulnerable.
Correct.
They may not have any income at all.
Correct.
They need some sort of funds to sustain themselves.
And really depend on services. And then if services are interrupted, you know, and there's whole new waves of people that require support. Just people who require support to get back to work, to get retraining, new vocational development opportunities. So I think that right now we're seeing a concentration of resources for COVID, immediate emergency service provision, recovery and response. But in the next 6 months, a year, I would expect to start to see a lot of funding for programming, to put people back to work, to get people retrained, to provide emergency services, to lift people back up. I would hope that's what nonprofits do best. You know, is they enlighten us and enrich our lives and support us, and we as a society get to support them in the work that they do as well.
Well, interesting, like even here in the United States, there's been a lot of speculation now about sort of the secondary effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of them is that so many people are unemployed, the businesses may or may not be able to resume operation, at least because they may have gone too far. They may have lost too much. So a lot of people are going to be required to rethink their careers. They may need to be retrained in a different career, and we have to have the resources available to do that. And that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of my clients, as I said, provides services for youth with disabilities, and we've had to, in a second, go to we run a high school for youth with disabilities, and the focus of the high school is a vocational development career readiness program. They help the kids, get ready for jobs and get into internships and eventually into employment. And in fact, 50% of their graduates are employed upon graduation, which is really exciting. But in a week, we had to turn to virtual programming for youth from low income families with learning disabilities and developmental disabilities, and who didn't even have computers or internet connections.
Yeah.
So
what did they do?
We bought computers and dropped one off at every house, and we had to hire someone to teach them how to turn it on, and we had to teach our teachers how to develop curriculum, and so everybody's on an amazing learning curve right now. Everybody's really responding to the challenges, but think about it. We can't just leave these kids at home with no simulation and no training. The learning losses that we're expecting to see are extreme, something to think about. There's already large learning gaps, right? Based on income inequalities, but with these closures, those gaps are likely to become exponential, because more affluent kids are at home with parents who are also stressed, but they're with parents at home who are able to guide their education. And if kids who are at home in homes where their language, English is a second language, or they don't have internet or a good computer, or not every kid in the family has their own computer to be online classes all at the same time. We're going to be seeing huge learning losses, and they're not going to be equal along the stratum. So
part of the problem is that to go forward with your education or your career choice, there are certain civil exams, maybe not civil, but certain exams, like the one that always comes to mind is the bar exam. They postponed it, that they're and then we had Zevin, can't think of his name, Mark Daniel, of course I can. They're saying they were set for interns, and because of the coronavirus, the internships were canceled. So they don't know where they are. They're left with nothing. And a lot of these, like the special needs, don't they have certain requirements that they have to get before they can then start teaching and doing that? That sounds like more difficulty. I mean, how do they, it's like a chain reaction.
Correct, it's a chain reaction.
Special needs, they can't get to their job, so they can't take the kid to school, and the school to their. Boy, what a...
And another one of my clients has a day program for adults with significant disabilities and senior adults with significant disabilities. They provide a day respite program. Many of their clients live in group homes or don't have even family local, or live with elderly parents. And so we have all of those people now being 24/7 caregivers who used to get some relief. People who live in group homes, they're in their bedrooms all day. There's so many domino effects that I think we're going to be seeing them for many months to come.
And I would think too that the parents of some of these children who are in lower income families, the parents may or may not be, but they may be essential frontline workers too. So they have to show up.
Correct.
And then what do they do about childcare?
Exactly. We're having that. One of my clients is an affordable childcare provider, and about 10% of our families have already lost their positions, but about half of them are essential frontline workers, grocery store workers, workers in the hospital, janitorial services, delivery drivers, you know, you name it. And where do they bring their kids? Who's watching them? So we're having there's a lot going on right now.
Are you in the
And,
suburbs or a city, or how is the living there compared to over here?
Here in Brazil, I'm very spoiled. I live in an absolutely beautiful city. I live in a state capital on an island in southeast Brazil. It's called Florianopolis. I'm actually right on the bay that's famous for oyster cultivation. It's how many people? I think about 200,000 people in the city.
Big. That's
Yeah,
big.
it's a beautiful city. I was, what, can we see the city?
Yeah, it's over there, over that way. You see the bridge right there?
Oh, look, yeah, we're trying to show you the downtown.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
On the other side of the bridge is the mainland.
Really? Look at that. It's
Uh-huh.
beautiful. Beautiful.
I assume they have income taxes and all that stuff?
Yes, there is income taxes. Yes.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
You're still a United States citizen though, right?
I am a United States
That's
citizen.
a
I'm a
low
resident
strike.
of Brazil.
The IRS.
I'm a resident of Brazil.
Knocking on the door.
No, I pay my taxes. My children, the rest of the family's all citizens though,
Of what?
Brazil?
Brazil?
of Brazil. They're all Brazilian citizens.
Are they double? Double?
Yes, they're all double.
Isn't that
Yuri and the kids all have dual citizenship, just me.
brilliant? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Luckily, Brazil does not treat immigrants the same way the United States does. So I'm
Oh,
treated,
yeah.
I'm treated
Yeah.
very well. I have access to universal health care. I had a situation about a year ago and ended up in an emergency room and in the hospital and was there for 3 or 4 days and walked out without paying a dime. And they even had a nutritionist come to meet with me and find out about my food allergies. They prepared my own special
Really?
meals for me.
Well, I
The public
assume
hospital.
the tests for coronavirus are not charged. They don't. charge for
I doubt they'd be a charge. They don't charge for anything. Avi had somebody had a ear infection or someone had an infection. When we brought him to the local clinic, they see the doctor, they give them all the medicine for free and you walk out. It's amazing.
Some of the countries pay for people to come to the Boston hospitals, and the people don't pay anything. We had a visitor where the country paid for everything, everything, including his housing.
Wow.
Amazing. Camille, do you think it's almost time to wind up? Although I got 5 million other questions for her.
I haven't been keeping track, have you?
Yeah,
Okay, is it time?
just about.
All right, I'll follow your lead then. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap up, Rachel?
Oh, it's been a real honor to be on today's show. I hope you'll have me back sometime under
Oh my
happier
God,
circumstances.
yeah, we
Oh,
have
we'd
to have
love
your
to.
kids back too.
Hmm. Yeah.
This is
So thank you so
amazing.
much. It's, you know, it's very interesting to see in many ways, regardless of where you live, the circumstances are
Yeah.
similar regardless. And maybe the so-called infrastructure like healthcare differs from what we have here, but you're still dealing with many of the same challenges. No matter what.
Absolutely.
And you're
Absolutely.
in a wonderful position to improve things for people. And that's an
Yeah.
admirable
That's the hope.
career to have.
Is this Global Development Solutions? That's the name of your company?
It is Global Development Solutions, and we
That's
are
been
at
around a while. That's been around a while, but might as well give you a
10
little.
years.
thought. Yeah.
How many?
Global
Yeah.
Development, 10. She says.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations for all you've done and
thank
what
you.
you're doing.
Thank you, and I'm really excited. We just developed our own grant management software that's coming out this summer. So that will help nonprofits be able to double or even triple their proposal production.
Yeah. You know what
So
you
more-
didn't mention? I know that you
What?
come to the United States frequently and you give lectures. You're booked for lectures, and nonprofits hire you to give lectures on different things. So she's not just stuck in Brazil.
Not just a pretty face.
No, she's all
You're
over.
that
all
plus
over
a
the
lot
country.
more.
Yeah.
That's
It's
fantastic.
I
great.
do. I'm very blessed. I travel around doing seminars about how to write better grant proposals faster, because more proposals, it means more money. It's simple math. If you don't get the grant, you don't apply for.
Right.
So
Terrific.
Yes.
yes.
Thank you very much, Rachel, for being
Thank you
with us
so
today.
much. And if anyone
And-
has any other questions for me, you can find me at www.gdsgrants.com.
Great. And of course, our viewers, you can also email us, because then we can get you in touch if you'd like more information about this wonderful organization and wonderful lady who founded the
Yeah.
organization.
Thank
GDS translated into number talk is 7419.
7419. All
Yes.
right. I like that.
You like that? Okay.
All
Camille.
right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
Stay
If you'd
safe,
like to know
everybody.
if you'd like to know more about grant writing and some of the things that Rachel's organization offers, we'll be happy to point you in that direction. And if you have any ideas regarding this continuing series we have about COVID-19, please let us hear from you, because remember, this is your show, the law, your money, and you.
I know we can point. We can clap though.